seen those airport TSA lines, and how about the fact that TSA in 2015 failed mock explosive detection tests 95% of the time? What is going on over at the TSA?
People shouldn't have to come to the airport 3 or 4 hours early to make a flight.
This is not tolerable.
People are sick and tired of waiting.
The backup is impossibly long.
It's not necessary for people to have to show up 2 and 3 hours before their flights just to go through security lines.
This is so disruptive to the normal business travel and the business travelers.
Increased security shouldn't mean being held prisoner in long security lines.
I'm just wondering if I'm going to make that plane.
The agency tasked with keeping you safe on a plane is a mess, spiraling out of control. And on top of that, there are accusations of mismanagement. Just yesterday, the TSA head of security was removed from his job. Former TSA Administrator John Pistole goes on the record. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Well, it's sort of hard to feel particularly safe when you hear that in 2015, I know we're going to talk about the long lines, but in 2015, 95% of the time when they had these mock explosive tests that the TSA failed. So I'm not even sure why we have to have these wrong lines. It sounds like we might as well just open it up. There's only a 5% difference.
Yeah, so they're obviously dealing with a complex situation, Greta, in terms of trying to offset the security risk, as we see from last week's Paris to Cairo flight, if it was terrorism, and then, of course, other terrorist attempts and on aircraft, the Sharm el-Sheikh aircraft from last October and so forth. So how do they balance the security with the efficiency of getting people moved through quickly? So I think we're seeing long lines as a direct result of that covert testing last year, where TSA and DHS are trying to address those issues.
But why the explosion in terms of the lines now? I mean, the lines have just gotten so much worse recently, it seems. What happened?
Yeah, there's a couple factors. One, obviously, there are just increased numbers of people traveling. As I understand, there's 10 million people per month thus far this year, more than last year who are traveling. So over 55 million people more this year than last year, the same time frame. That, coupled with some changes in the security protocols as a result of the IG testing that resulted in those unacceptable security breaches. And so that combination, coupled with the staffing of TSA that is not adequate to these increased volumes, brings together all that.
You know, it strikes me, though, is that the choke point is at security when everyone's having, laptops and everything else checked in bags. And it seems to me that if people brought less things on board but instead checked them in the belly of the plane, that we'd have less of a choke point. But people don't want to check it in the belly of the plane because airlines charge, and also because when you finally get to the end at your destination, you have to wait an hour and a half for the airline to finally get your bags to the carousel. And it's free to bring it on board. So why not reverse it? Why not charge to bring it on board, make it free in the belly of the plane, and get the airlines to be efficient in getting people their bags when they get off the planes?
Yeah, that's something that obviously the airlines would have to decide unless Congress decided to pass a law that required that. There's been some discussion about asking the airlines to stop charging the check bag fees, as you're saying, and that clearly would facilitate greater throughput at the checkpoints if there's less items in those carry-on bags, because that's what slows things down, where people have to unpack bags because they're so densely packed, it's hard to see what's in there. And heaven forbid that there's a terrorist who is trying to exploit the system by packing something so tightly, a carry-on bag, to put explosives in that they believe might be able to get through that way.
Well, maybe with all the inconvenience that they'll finally rethink and come up with some good ideas to try to solve this problem, because it's really gotten to a bad level. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Sure thing.